People have said that that my father's generation was the greatest generation. People say that yours is the worst. Theologically, that's incorrect. We are all sons and daughters of Adam. We were all born with the same corruption. But what I will say is this. In my scant knowledge of world history, I would have to say that there has never been on the face of the earth a generation more bombarded with deception. As a matter of fact, when we look back at the Tower of Babel, it was a judgment. But you have to understand that even in the judgment of Adam and Eve, the Tower of Babel, there is an element of divine mercy. How was mercy shown at Babel? God divided the nations. They had different voices, different languages, so that they could not intercommunicate, which meant that they were separated. So let's look at it this way with regard to a human body. If my hand has cancer, that's a horrific thing, but we could cut off my hand, and then I'm saved. The rest of my body is saved. And in some ways, that's what happened in the Tower of Babel. The nations were so divided that if one fell into corruption to the point of Romans 1 reprobation, well, they were separated from the rest of the nations. But now we see something of a recreation of the Tower of Babel, so that some reprobate filth that is spawned in Hollywood at 8 o'clock in the morning will be around the world by 12 o'clock noon. Also, you're bombarded with information. And yet most people are not given the skills to practice discernment. The systems of logic and such that built the Western civilization as we know it are all but destroyed. Even the simplest things, such as the law of contradiction, of non-contradiction. And so what you see now is a perfect case scenario for evil. We are not a thinking people. We are not a quiet people. We are not a people who are well read in Scripture or even the classics. And so what we've done is what even secular philosophers prophesied 50 years ago has now happened. It is a new dark ages. I was asked a while back, about sending children to public school, and I said, no, stop. You have to understand something. When I went to school as a little boy, remember my teachers, we recited the Pledge of Allegiance and we prayed in my school. So even though there was an abundant supply of evil, even in my era, today, to send someone to public school is simply to send someone to a pagan temple. Just a pagan temple. And so there's never been a generation, I think, like your generation, because the evil is so global, so pronounced. I've said this many times in prayer to God, interceding, that there was a time when in many nations in the West, your son's name was honored. And then came a point where your son's name was blasphemed. Now, it's not even worthy of honorable mention. Not even on the lips of his enemies. But here's the thing. In the midst of a first century darkness, you have the opportunity to live like first century Christians.